6:32.
And Dan is here.
Good evening.
You in, Dan?
No, different.
Dan, are you in?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. We can see you too.
Good. Maybe, well, I'm better heard than seen, but
We can turn the camera off if you want. We're all here, but we just want to make sure you're the only person waiting to get in. Kevin is here. I'm going to mute you right now for a second, Dan.
Okay. Do you need this for 5 minutes?
No.
Okay. I'm going to read this in the date or something to that effect. I'm curious why, it's more than, the time for the agreement is more than half gone. We'll put that in the minutes. Okay.
If we speak, let's see, so I'm not, the vowels aren't moving now, so make sure why they're not.
Does that denote movement?
I was just testing. Jay, can you say something? Because for some reason, I cannot see owls picking up on my voice.
Okay. Can you hear me speaking? Nope. Nothing now?
But Dan was just hearing you.
Ask Dan if he's still there. Dan,
Dan is still there. I can see him.
Right.
can you hear him?
Hey, Dan,
Oh, there he is.
he's talking. But you're muted, Dan.
Can you unmute yourself, Dan?
Still muted.
how's that?
That's better.
Okay.
Now, can you hear us when we're talking?
Yes, very well.
All right.
Okay.
As long as you can hear it outside, that's
Okay. Would you just check so there's nobody else?
fine. I do not see anybody else in the
Okay.
waiting room.
Okay. We're going to start the meeting at 6:36. Does anybody have changes to the agenda?
No.
No,
Nope.
no changes to the agenda. And we have a quorum.
We do. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us here.
Yeah.
Minutes from last meeting.
Minutes from last meeting,
January 7th.
January 7th. Thank you.
Any
Anybody?
questions about them?
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Second?
I nodded, yes. I
Yeah,
nodded.
fine. All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? All in favor for the minutes.
Yep.
Um, First item on the agenda is the agreement.
wait, one before that.
Sure.
Town plan status.
Um,
Dan, did you have an opportunity to share any thoughts with the select board?
I attended the meeting and they went through sections 2 and 3. And so there wasn't much controversial in there. What they're hung up about a little is we put some restrictions on building in the flood and river plains. So they have to decide whether that's too restrictive. We erred on the side of restrictiveness, but they're gonna revisit that part of it. But otherwise, it was fine. Next time they're going to be doing the housing chapter.
Thank you.
uh, Kevin, do you know anything more on that subject?
On the town plan?
Yes.
Not much.
Okay.
I'm staying clear of that as much as I can.
Just wanted to know if you had any skinny that we hadn't heard yet.
For insight.
No, I think, yeah, Brian's working on it. There may be some small changes and stuff.
I don't think there's been any, other than what was transferred in November, December to the select board. And their select board, to my knowledge, and help me if I'm wrong on this one, Dan, plans to just take chapters and go through the review. And on occasion, if they reach out to the planning commission for input, they will do so. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. And they are doing it, but they've asked me and I think you, Steve, to be there, or at least John did the last meeting. I assume that they're gonna want one of us there to. It doesn't have to be either of us two. It could be anyone from the planning commission. But I told them I'd do it last time, and you said you couldn't. I think so.
Right, and I think it might be helpful that, and I won't be in the country for the next one, but if they're going to be talking about housing, could I ask you, Dan, to reach out to John and see if he can be available, because that was sort of his chapter?
Yep, I agree. I was going to do that, so I certainly want him there. So I'll contact him and tell well in advance of their. I think don't they meet every 2 weeks?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So I've got their next one down. So I don't know where John's going to be, but the Zoom worked fine for me. So.
well, it's the time of the Zoom for me, because I'll be halfway around the world, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only got 2 hours lag here. So.
Yeah. Okay, so that's town plan
Okay.
contract.
Next item is a discussion about the agreement between Two Rivers and the town of Heartland. To be clear, the planning commission is the planning commission, the town of Heartland is the select board. So the agreement that we had not seen last time, and we received in the mail 2 days ago, discusses what the discussion was between town and Two Rivers. Essentially, it's that the not to exceed cost is $17,000, of which half of that, apparently, maybe there's a 50% discount from Two Rivers.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Right. There isn't, as far as directions or the select board's notion of what should be in the plan, there is nothing written about that.
Never is. In those types of contracts.
Okay.
Because we're going to develop.
Yes, that's no issue with that. The one issue, because again, we hadn't seen this before, this agreement was signed by the select board 7 months ago. And again, we've just seen it. More than half the time has gone by because the services from Two Rivers will expire on July 1st. And so the agreement says.
Yes.
Perhaps if it needs to go beyond that, it'll be more or different money, or we don't know what. Again, there's nothing specific in here that tells anybody what to do. I think that's the long and the short of it.
Could
Yeah.
you, Kevin, last meeting had given somewhat of an overview on bylaws and the process. It would be helpful to me if you might take a second to say what you believe your role is in this contract, your role being Two Rivers.
Yep.
And how you envision us going through this process.
Yeah, this would pretty much be a standard process that we do with all sorts of towns. The product's a little different, but we write a lot of bylaws and plans basically this way. And what we do, the only thing that changes sometimes is where we end up in terms of hearing drafts and that type of thing. And can you hear me, Dan, okay?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the owl was picking me up,
Adjusting.
but we have the kickoff meeting, and then we're going to have a series of meetings. We're going to kind of go through kind of section by section and work on this thing. This draft, as we talked about last time a little bit, is going to be different, and as you see, is different. And that it's going to have these call-out boxes, which is not usual. We don't usually do that. But this way, anybody watching us going along can go, well, why did they do that? Or what's that thing? Because there's the tendency to go, let's just start throwing things out of the hot air balloon here. Not knowing that that was an important thing to not throw out in the hot air balloon. That you can't. We have the future land use map in the town plan, and that's still in play. And so one of the reasons this didn't start is because the town plan hadn't cleared you. So we didn't want to get doing this. I've done that a couple times. It doesn't end well. Trying to have both of those things on planning commission's plate at the same time. So now that the plan's off your plate, we can work on bylaws. But until the plan solidifies and gets done, we really won't know exactly what the districts will be. They essentially are your future land use areas in the plan. And we wouldn't know the district map because that map hasn't solidified. We're pretty, you're 95% sure where things are going. But we wait on that. That would really be not the next meeting, potentially the meeting after that. And we kind of just move from beginning to end of the draft, and just to kind of go over the pieces of them. Right tonight, we kind of get some of the administrivia out of the way, which is the setup of who's who, what's what applies, short of exemptions. The next meeting, I would think, would just be exemptions, where we talk about the things that don't apply, the things that aren't going to be covered, where you don't need a permit. And since this is a unified bylaw, those are both the types of development that usually might get a zoning permit and the types of development that might get a subdivision permit. And both of those, where we're going to go, I'm in the Zoom now. I just want to make sure I'm going to make my video on over here. I'm not going to turn my audio on because then I think we're going to get the bouncy thing. It drives everybody crazy. And then we're gonna walk through kind of each piece, because again, I'm not dealing with a town that has been using, zoning and subdivision for years. And they're like, oh, we need to fiddle with this part. So it's gonna be kind of education with you all, education for anybody who shows up, anybody who's watching out there. And then, I feel that there probably needs to be something short of the hearings at the end, where we kind of do a little more, somehow get people in the room and just, what is this thing? And, your pleasure, you guys can decide. That may be an open house. Sometimes that's a good forum where we just kind of say, okay, here's a chunk of time. Anybody want to come in? It's not going to be a working meeting, doing that type of thing. It could just be a meeting just for that. I find sometimes Saturdays work well. Just because, this is weeknight, the average human being goes home, does something other than with their lives than this. And we want to meet those people. The town plan is going to give us a bunch of direction, as you know, from the town plan. But there's a lot of shoulds in there, and shoulds don't translate to bylaws. So in the bylaws, the shoulds either sugar up one way or the other, and they become shells, or we don't do it. And those are really going to be a lot of the discussion. So the pieces are going to be administrivia, which will get done hopefully tonight. Then we go into exemptions, so get the things, and I like to put that right up front in the bylaw, because then you go, just don't have to go any further here, you don't need a permit for whatever that thing is. Then, typically, there will be either general standards that apply to all development, or district standards. So, you'd have the medium residential or whatever out there. Then, if the bylaw has it, there would be either site plan and conditional uses, and as well as subdivision review. And we will have subdivision review for sure, because it's a unified bylaw. How we deal with conditional uses and site plan will be a question. And, so I'll explain why one sends a use to conditional use or site plan. And then there are some statutory things that you have to put in conditional use. There are no statutory things for site plan, why one chooses one or the other. And typically those are for larger commercial uses. And then we'll tackle subdivision, and that'll be its own thing. And subdivisions, there are a couple of break points in subdivisions that we'll talk about. One is that a lot of towns kind of have a two-path for what they call minor subdivisions and major subdivisions. There are pros and cons to that, I think. But then there's going to be a set of subdivision standards. What do you want? What can be there for the roads? And how do you cover the land? Do we care if the land's developable or not? A whole bunch of things that go into subdivision standards. A lot of things typically around ag and forestry preservation. That usually varies by district, because you go in the village, we're not so worried about preserving the farmland because it's the village. But out there, we're more, so things change. And then at the end, there's some more administrivia usually comes in at the end around the kind of odd things that happen, which are waivers and variances, appeals, enforcement. And then there's a definition thing. And so each of those are kind of chunks. They're natural chunks, and then they come along. But they all play into each other a little bit, because a definition obviously might affect something up front. The use list, there will be districts, there will be uses in districts, and that'll be guided by the plan. And if the plan has some tight things, if it says shall or shall not, that's gonna affect this for sure. But then there'll be other things in there where you'll be like, I'll be saying things like contractor yards. Probably a good thing for us to address. Something you probably have in town a lot. So, Fred owns 3 trucks that go out and plow. All right, it's not really a home occupation. Do we care much about it? If we care about it, does it need site plan or conditional use? Or do we just say, you gotta have some extra setback, right? And so we'll talk about each of those pieces and how they work, and why they do what they do, and, get your take on it, and you kind of put this thing together bit by bit. Then we'll have it all, obviously, at the end, then there'll be the mandatory hearings. The hearing process, adoption process is very similar to the town plan, and that there's, you have a hearing, select board has a hearing, there's a public notice.
Dan mentioned a few minutes ago that in his discussion of what he knew of the select board action, they had worked through 1 or 2 of the 20-odd sections in the proposed town plan.
Okay,
It doesn't look like we are going to know much about what the version for the town plan is. I asked you last month about, well, wait a minute, is this all premature because we don't have any word from the select board? And it looks like that's months away. So how can we be here trying to get into a subject where we don't know what the outcome's going to be?
because the things that they're doing in the town plan over there, a lot of this stuff is not going to affect pieces of the bylaw. Because essentially, we're building a car. And there's no question whether the car's going to have tires and a windshield. There may be a question about what color we want the car, we want four-wheel drive. A lot of options out there, but there's a whole bunch of things that are just going to be in a bylaw. And we can go over all of those and get all of those things set and done. And I use that analogy about a car because we all know cars. But if I say an abandonment clause, I know what that means. I know why it's always in the bylaw, but you all don't necessarily know why that's a thing, or non-conformities, or whatever. And so there are all these things that are always in bylaws, and we'll go over them. And your town plan really doesn't affect that one way or another. A bunch of you all really are going to be the sounding board to go, where do we want the volume knob on these things? And those things really aren't going to be dependent upon the town plan.
Okay, would you hold on one second?
Yeah.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah,
would you repeat what the select board, what issue they were taking with one of the items that they needed to discuss further? Could you mention that again, please?
the floodplains.
Building on flood river.
Yeah.
Whether the town plan was too restrictive about building in floodplains. I told them that our position was that better safe than sorry. So
Yeah, a couple things on that. Right now, the intention is we leave the floodplain bylaw over there, because it's pre-existing, and you build a bylaw over here. Half towns probably have it that way, half towns fold them in. There's no right or wrong in that. The nice thing is that no matter how this goes, it doesn't bother your flood bylaw. They're separate if we don't stick them together. The other thing is that the state is in the process of creating base flood regulations that towns will need to do. And for the towns that have pretty meager flood regs, a lot of those will become outmoded because the state's going to say, I imagine, things like 1 foot of freeboard, 2 foot of freeboard for critical facilities, Whereas a lot of towns, right now, they say, you can build at base flood. And so the places where the select board may be going, you guys are going too far, is probably in general going to be the base layer that you'll be allowed to go to. Yeah, I don't, your flood regs are not like, crazy draconian. They're kind of run of the mill as far as I'm concerned.
Come back to the duration.
Yep.
What's going to happen when this ends in your contract ends in another 4 months?
We will extend it. Yeah, there's no way we're gonna be done by July. And that's just because we got a later start than we thought we were gonna, and that's fine, we'll extend it out. We won't extend it forever because it just keeps us working, but I would certainly think at a reasonable pace, that we're looking at, the fall. Not a year from now, but really more the fall, to be ready to be going to hearing, because we'll have been through all the pieces.
Is the select board, will the price of the contract change beyond what it is now, or just you're going to extend it?
No, it's just the fact that we didn't start as early as we hoped until the whole thing was moved.
Okay. We didn't know if the select board was going to have to come up with more money because your contract ended.
No.
Okay.
So back to Jay's question about, we have sent our version of the town plan to the select board.
Yeah.
And many of our discussions around the bylaws will be influenced by what we submitted. And I guess I'm unfortunately maybe speaking for Jay, is that we're not going to get so far down the road doing the process that you've described, and then all of a sudden the select board say, we want to change land use and floodplains and all of that kind of stuff. How does that impact the work that we may have already done?
Right, only really in the districting and the uses part. If the land use map stays about the same, that's really drives the districts. This area's green, this area's yellow, whatever. And then the language around you have some language around density and lot size and things like that and uses. And so those are, in any district, they're basically two tables. One is what can you do? What are those? You definitely can do these. Those are the permitted uses. You might be able to do these. Those are conditional use or site plan. And then the standards that affect these uses, the lot size, the setback, that type of thing. Those things would all get driven by the land use section of the town. The bits that I'm hearing are really is that they're not going to monkey with it much, but that they just want to walk through it, and that's all I see. Our comments to them were pretty minor in terms of if we really should make this shall should to give ourselves some room, come by a lot of time, and some other stuff where we go, the statute says you got to get that, or there's a new number over here, that type of thing. My sense is that they don't want to get under the hood a little.
Okay, except the only problem that I think we have is based on what Dan said. The very first review, they found something that was, quote unquote, too restrictive.
No, let me correct that though. They didn't find it there was just some individuals on the select board just opined that maybe it was too restrictive. There was no sense on the select board that they, as an official position, they thought it was too restrictive. There were certainly other members who just didn't speak, or I think, so it's hard to get it, I was just reporting what they talked about. So certain members talked about things, but there was no consensus or vote or anything like that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I hear too restrictive. I say, what am I doing here?
Yeah. No, I
It's
mean, I piped up too, so I let them know our position and so I don't think there's going to be much change, even in the land use section, which they're holding to the end. But, I just don't see any, they sort of left it to us to do. And, um, I think until there's public hearings, I think they're inclined to go along with it.
That's what I think so too. It's not uncommon. Our board does the same thing. Every now and then when people start reading things closely, and they go, "What's that?" And you go, "That's been there for 30 years." And it didn't do anything, didn't set your hair on fire before, didn't cause a calamity.
So if I can ask as a former English major and
Yes.
dissertation writer, how much actual new language, what kind of draft are you expecting us to come up with? Or is there so much that we can pull out of the town plan to make it easier?
We're not expecting you to write anything.
Ah,
No, you've hired us to write the book. And we're going to show you chapters, and then you're going to be like, that plot's weird, and tell us to do something else.
uh-huh.
So,
Because it's unlike a plan, the bylaw is a technical
Did you know that?
document.
No,
um, what is our role in this? How do we contribute to it?
Yes, okay, great. Your role really is to go further. That's too far. That's too restrictive. That's not restrictive enough. I'll give you an example. Subdivisions. And because this is a common thing. I mean, I've done it long enough with enough towns that there's kind of like, you can kind of know what the flashpoints are. Subdivisions, you need a permit to create a lot. That's the essence of a subdivision, right? You're subdividing, you're taking the chunk off, you own like a big chunk of land.
I pay enough in taxes.
More than like a couple acres.
Yeah,
So, and what's your name again?
Andre Patton.
Andre, I remember. Okay, so Andre's got a piece of land, and he wants to carve off a chunk and give it to one of his kids to build a house. Under the bylaw, he could go two ways. He would always need a zoning permit to create a lot, because creating a lot is development, just like building a house in Vermont, so you need that. But if the rule is you gotta have an acre, and he's like, I drew a square, there's an acre in there, yep, you do, you might go, that's a zoning permit, don't need a subdivision permit. We aren't even gonna deal with that. You just come in, you pay the $25, off you go, you have a lot. And then you file a plat with the town. You might go, oh, we want to run that through a subdivision process for whatever reason. A lot of towns do what I call the freebie provision, which is everybody gets to do that once. And so that way everybody goes, wait, the rules are right now, I don't need to come and get a subdivision permit for you, and you go, the rules, that's what the rules are gonna be. You'll need a zoning permit, but basically that zoning permit is, do you have an acre? Yeah, is it kind of square? Yeah. And do you have the state septic and what we call the potable water supply and wastewater permit, right? Shorthand, the state septic design. Will it work? Those three things in hand, off you go. You just go see the zoning administrator permit. Annexations typically never go through subdivision. Andre has 2 lots, and he wants to make them into 1 lot. We really don't care. Why would you ever care? Don't go through subdivision. Lot line adjustment. I use my lot a lot like that. I own a teeny postage stamp. My neighbor owns a teeny postage stamp. There has never been a survey of our lots. I own to the edge of the old Delano place and to the sluiceway. That's what my deed says. I can kind of figure out the sluiceway because there's a creek over here. The edge of the Delano place, I have no idea. should my neighbor and I want to actually survey that line, we'd be filing a plat, but we aren't really making a subdivision, we're just putting it down on paper, what we both agree is the subdivision. Again, those things go over there. So, but maybe you go, oh, but out in the woods, in that forest area, if Andre owned a big chunk of forest, we don't care if he wants to carve off an acre down here by the road because it's by the road. But if the acre he wanted to carve was up in the middle of the forest, and that's going to be a long road, and that's going to impact the forest, now we do care. And that's exactly where I'm going to be asking you guys. And you're going to make it, oh, yep. Or we care for such and such a reason. Maybe we care at 2, maybe we care at 3 lots, whatever. One of the things you can get in subdivision will be, do we care where the stuff goes on the lot at all? Or is it just, you do a box, you can put the house anywhere in there as long as you're away from the setbacks on the edge of the box, or there's something we call building envelopes, where you might go, well, there's a great big field in the middle here, and we're trying not to get you to build in the field, so yeah, you got the box okay, but you're gonna actually put the house out here. Those are gonna be things for you because I'll tell you why you might want to or why you might not want to, and then you guys are gonna be like, that's gonna drive everybody crazy, or boy, people are really, that's really important. So all of those, what I call value decisions, are really what you guys get to do. The technical decisions about, is there a 5-part test or a 4-part test of variance? No, there's a 5-part test. And that's the deal.
Hey, well, actually, there were several of us at this table who slightly startled when you said to us, we didn't have to write anything. I mean, that is an amazing statement that I've never witnessed in all the years, and probably most of us haven't here. And I noticed as you're going through, you keep saying, well, what we're going to do. I would like to know who we are.
When I say we, I'm generally meaning us, Two Rivers, which is generally going to be me, giving you draft language like we have before us tonight, and then you guys, there's also going to be a readability thing. Unlike plans, bylaws are written a little more boring, legalistic, I suppose, and stuff. They typically don't have kind of instruction level language. This bylaw, I am putting a bit more of that in there. They just say the applicant will do that, and you gotta go. Well, people don't realize they're the applicant. And you gotta go to the zoning district. Who's the zoning district? And so it's very easy for someone like me who's done this forever to be using terms and processes and stuff and not writing it in a way that humans can understand. And so that's going to be an excellent part, like as an editor, to be like, that isn't obvious, but that, like, do we have to say it that way? Or can we say it this way over here? Can we do a call-out box or do something that'll help people understand, like, oh, and that's why, like, the applicability part, which we're talking about tonight a little bit, is trying to go make people understand, without maybe going overboard, begin with thinking anything requires a permit, and then we'll back you up to, no, it doesn't, no, it doesn't, no. Instead of, you probably don't need a permit. Oh, yeah, you do, yeah, you do, yeah, you do.
Let me cut to the quick.
Yeah.
In the end,
Yes,
by statute,
yes.
does the planning commission have to vote and approve a unified bylaw?
Yeah, you have to go to hearing. It doesn't get to the select board without going to your hearing.
Okay,
And so, yeah, you would be like,
so
Yep.
so to settle this down about your earlier statement, that you essentially want to be the drafter of that, and we're the judge and jury. We like it, we don't like it.
Correct.
Is that a,
Yes,
are you happy with
I'm
that?
happy.
yes.
So we're the editors.
Yes, you're the editors, you're the style consultants, you're a whole bunch of things. Our job is to tell you, like, this is actually the mechanism, this is how it works. Sometimes this is the piece you have to use, or this is statutory stuff, you've got to do it this way. Other times, it's going to be like, here's a choice. And a lot of it is what I refer to as volume notes, where you kind of go, well, we can talk about lighting. We can not talk about lighting at all. Like, we're not going to regulate lighting. Or we can regulate lighting. A lot of towns only regulate lighting on commercial uses. They don't regulate it on residential uses. We could do hillside. A lot of towns have hillside stuff. You can do a hillside in like 3 sentences, or you can do it in complicated ways. And our goal on this, especially because the original kind of first cut, is to go not any or a simple version. And so my general approach in writing this is going to be like C-spot, C-spot run type bylaw, more than Shakespeare bylaw.
Simple's good.
Yeah.
So what I hear is the emergence of a process which started formal meeting on the 7th of August. And I've heard a little bit tonight about some specifics in that process, especially the brain work process of it. And that's really important. And I think that will emerge. What I don't hear, how long is this going to take?
Typically, it would take us probably 7 or 8 meetings.
7 or 8 weeks.
7 or 8 meetings.
Meetings.
Yeah.
Which we could do in 7 weeks if we wanted.
If we all want it
I'll
all.
try to play the chain a little bit. But I think that, I think you heard me emerge or started down that path the last time we met. I will be nervous if I don't hear emerge some kind of structured timeline. More than, well, don't worry about it because if we run out of money, we'll fund something anyway, or we'll do it anyway. And maybe it's going to take 7 meetings. I don't know how long those meetings, but I'm just going to be listening for a timeline. Because we don't get from A to B unless we have the desire and identify where the hell B is. Okay?
B is a hearing draft.
I'm not trying to be
No.
difficult about this,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that I need something to see something emerge.
Virtually all, well, not virtually, like all of our contracts when we write zoning bylaws and stuff, basically say, sometimes they have a number of meetings, sometimes they have a rough number of hours, but they basically, sometimes they'll say 5 to 7 meetings, sometimes we don't say a number of meetings, sometimes it's just like, we'll work on the draft, and so you usually have a kickoff meeting, a bunch of drafting, and then a hearing thing. And since most of them are done under municipal planning grants, we have an 18-month timeline to get from beginning to end. This is not funded that way, but there's no reason, with the exception of summer, because things slow down in the summer and we don't want to necessarily meet every month in the summer, take August off, that type of thing. October, it's good to be done in October. If you're not done in October, and we can be done in October with all the pieces. If we're not done in October, well, November and December just kind of go to pot. However, in lots of ways, if you're done in October, that's a good time for hearings because most of the work is done. You go to hearing, have a hearing, fiddle with it a little bit, go to another hearing. especially if this is gonna go to a town vote. Then we want it to be ready in January, because it's gotta be ready to hit that for town meeting.
Warning.
Assuming you don't want special town meeting. So that's the thing that drives like an end date, I would say. And I would imagine you're going to a vote. Again, the legal process is the select board can just adopt, or they can decide on their own motion to send it to a vote, or a bunch of people, it doesn't take that many actually, petition, and that drives it to a vote. But either way, my gut is it's probably going to a vote in town, it being the first time around.
Can we end this level of discussion? Do you have something to present to us tonight?
Yes, so the thing that you all had,
Administrative.
The preface.
yep, and a yeah, and so I will, I can share, good. So that everybody on there in Zoom can see, you can see this, Dan, what we're seeing here. So first off, I put a preface in. Most bylaws don't have a preface. No reason you can't have a preface, but it is not meant to be, the legal part of the bylaw. And this is just kind of a little bit of an instruction sheet about, hey, this has terms. This, the best place, I think this part right here is really important. The best place to start is by talking with your administrative officer. Now, here's the thing. Some towns don't, the law calls the administrative officer. It's often called the zoning administrator. Some towns want to call it something else. Fine, it's always the administrative officer, whatever you call it. But you might call it the
Town manager.
the town, well, yeah, you might. I suppose you could say the town manager, or we have some towns that's called the development administrator, that type of thing. But go talk with them first off, right away. And they are the only person, and this is more a process piece, but they are the only person, we write it down here too, they are the only person authorized to provide a decision. Not the planning commission at the gas station, not the select board when you see them at town fair, whatever, because those things happen a lot. Like, do I need a permit? Answer, go talk to the zoning administrator. And they are empowered but not directed by state law to talk about all the other permits. And that's really important. It's not a thing that goes in your bylaw. A few things go in your bylaw. Septic permit, driveway permit, flood permit, by law can intersect with your bylaw. And the building energy standards by law have to intersect with your bylaw. But whether they need a state building permit, or whether they need a wetlands permit, or a whole bunch of other permits out there that they might need, the zoning administrator is really good at knowing that and going, oh, this is the town permit, but you should go get these other things.
Following that piece of advice,
Yes.
should we pursue that soon with the select board to see what they have in mind for administrative officer?
I think, no, I mean, you're going to have, again, it's a tire. You're going to have tires. What they want to call it, we can change that at any time.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're talking about things that we need to do, so I was just trying to put prioritize something. Is that something that should be discussed early on?
No, they're going to have it first.
No, I know they are,
Yeah.
but we need to define it. Is it a number of people? Is it one person?
One person.
Is it the town manager? Is it the chair of the select board? Who is it?
That's
Again,
up to the town,
yeah.
Okay,
and that'll be up to the select board.
I
And
understand
we
that.
wrote right in the bylaw because the bylaw does like that. Same thing as fees.
I understand that. I didn't know if that was something we should discuss with them quickly, one item at a time, instead of coming to them with 10 different thoughts.
Yeah, no,
Different
that's kind of an administrative piece that's going to be there bailiwick later. And so then And so then I've tried to use terms like, typically, this section might be called administration. I call it setting the stage. A little more colloquial, but just, hey. And then this part here, we don't usually write this necessarily, but this says, this is what this part is going to be about. And then, of course, we don't have these boxes on the side at all.
So let me,
Yes.
why did you make that comment that we're not the people who write this necessarily? Who's gonna do that?
They are.
We are.
Okay,
Yeah, because this is, you've hired an engineer to build a bridge. The engineer doesn't come to you and go, what do you guys think about steel? No, I mean, this is a technical thing. But there's different kinds of bridges, and that type of stuff, and so that's what we're gonna do, and so,
So Kevin,
yes.
I really appreciate having something that we can see. It's a good guide. We can certainly edit it.
Yes.
If we see something as we go through this, do you want our quote-unquote edits now?
Mhm. Yep.
Then I would ask in section 1, where you said setting the stage,
Yes.
could you do administration : setting the stage?
Sure. And this is literally how we're gonna do it, where we will just go,
However you want to, yeah, that's fine. : I think. I'm looking at setting the stage as being more the action part of it. Okay.
And there will be a lot of wordsmithing in this, just as a matter of kind of how we do it in general. The best way to do it is for us to do it live like this, in general. But if there's a typo or like a thing like that, just let us know offline. We can fix it. What we can do again for open meeting law is you can't be like sending me things and then discussing stuff outside of it. And so this part here,
So
yes.
and that's, I fully appreciate the open meeting. Would it be useful from a procedural viewpoint process for us following a meeting to collect our thoughts, bring them to the next meeting, which then puts them into open session, and we agree, yes, that's something we want to do, so we don't lose those thoughts, and then you could edit or plug them in as we go?
Yeah, and so this is a great question because everybody does this a little different. Every town decides to. So for the process, what we could do as a general approach is I could walk through what you have in front of you and just kind of give you the lay of the land and take any questions. Then you can cogitate. You can put together a compendium of comments. Next meeting, we can actually go through all those, get them done, and then do the next version of that, where we're gonna go walk through something, you think about it. I haven't had good luck ever, really, with like 3 people, maybe exceptions over the years, about if I send this to you 2 weeks in advance, everybody comes from Marcos. It just doesn't happen.
So, and I'm fine with what you just said.
Yeah.
And I may be speaking out of order, but I do like the draft or the sample being presented to us. We can look at it, listen to you talk about it, and then here's where I may be out of order, but I'm happy to do it. If you go back after we've had these discussions, for example, after tonight, and you decide that in enactment there, that you want something else to take place, if you want to send that to me, I will capture all of our thoughts and bring that to the next meeting and present it so that we don't lose it and goes. And that way,
One person is.
just one person collects it, but everybody has an opportunity to submit. Is that okay with you, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
And so, excellent, Steve. So what we can do in that approach is if you give me that, then I can kind of write that in as a track using track. If I say track changes and words, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else there?
So I could essentially put those changes in as track changes. And there may be some where it's like option A, option B, because, other things would be like, somebody's only mentioned this one thing. Everybody else thinks that's crazy, and so we'll hit them all and we'll accept or not accept. Or there may be some places where we're like, here's some options, let's pick one of those, accept that one, reject these two. And if I get them like a week or so in advance, then I can actually load the document, then we can have that ready.
Okay.
And that's a great way to do it. And then what we do is we work in a kind of a track changes format, and we accept and accept and accept, and delete, whatever. And then we're kind of done with that and moving on.
Thank you.
Excellent, that'd be
We can
lovely.
do that.
But again, you can all send that comments. I can get the comments. What we can't do is we can't start going back and forth.
Yeah.
before the meeting.
No,
I think
that's what I was saying. If they just come to me,
Yeah.
I can get them to you so they're there, then we discuss them in the open meeting. That's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's really good. That's a great way to do it.
So if we've agreed on that basic process.
Yes.
Should we, I'm asking the question, what do you do with that? We've agreed with the process, we've got a product.
Yep.
It's in development.
Yep.
It's in gestation, whatever you want to call it. And I'm particularly thinking about what do we do with that product or this thing in process and our relationship with the select board, because they're going to want to know what the hell we're doing or what we've covered and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
My way of thinking about that is that, well, if you're open about it, but you control it, that might not be a bad thing. But is everybody comfortable with that, or do we keep that under wraps?
Well, first off, the select boards are all ex officio members of the planning commission, right?
Yeah.
My approach on these things is you're always going to have to go through the select board eventually. So there's no sense doing something that they're not going to fly. Since you have a town manager, to me, let's use the town manager. They get paid. The town manager will get copied on everything. If their part of John's work is to be like aware of stuff, and if he sees something that he thinks the select board is going to find weird, send it over there. But he would be the eyes as we go along. As we get near the end, and especially before you go to hearing, the select board will be getting the whole draft. And because the idea there especially is we want select board comments by your hearing versus after your hearing.
So,
And that's why I'm also going to leave all these what whys in the draft as we go instead of.
no, those are helpful. And I think, George, part of the idea from my perspective of the track changes is that this is going to be a living document. And if the select board or representative thereof wants to take a look at it, they can see where our conversation has gone. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we're going to build it as we go. This is, if you already had zoning, bylaw, we would have the whole document and we'd be kind of doing these changes to get to. but this is just gonna be kind of building it brick by brick. So, to be cognizant of time, we got about half an hour. I'm gonna go through parts here. Enactment, you kind of gotta say, did you actually have it and what you're gonna call it? So that's why
Do you want to see?
there is a purpose
I have it on the
statement,
screen.
and that purpose statement really talks about the town plan and the state planning goals, because by law, all zoning in town, all zoning in Vermont has to go to the state planning goals. So that's what they're doing. There's a date so that everybody knows when this thing started. The status of prior ordinance, you might decide, well, we don't need that because you don't have a prior ordinance. And so we might strip that out. Or you might say, well, let's leave it in because in the future, we'll have a prior ordinance. Severability you have to have. That's so if some part of this thing goes kaflooey, the whole thing doesn't go kaflooey.
So that's what that is.
Is there a
Yes.
question on your text box on the right?
Yeah,
Is something missing there or it's
Yeah.
overlapped like?
yeah, something is on
It's better on my,
It opens up in
yeah,
yours?
yeah.
something, yeah.
And it wasn't working on my iPad.
Why don't we,
Huh.
you got it?
Well, I can separate them, but I don't know if that's what I want.
That's the
Oh,
only
that's
other.
precedence, never mind.
Precedence is,
No, one
It's
of the box got moved up.
yeah, that's.
It was hidden behind, but it should go to the 1.6 below. That's, yeah, that one there should drop down. Yeah,
Precedence is, so people understand, if this bylaw says you need 20 feet and your, I don't know, the road ordinance says you need 30 feet, it's 20 feet. You know, whatever is the most strict thing applies. And then this creates this is like the cast of characters. Who are there out there? There's the administrative officer, and this acting administrative officer is a new part of the law, a newish part of the law. I think it's very important because there is a clock. When the administrative officer receives an application, they've got 30 days to act. And there's no well, they're on vacation. Nope, there's the 30-day clock starts. And so you should have an acting one. Just so you know how that happens is, and we just put it in here, 24 VSA 4448. We didn't spell that all out. What actually happens is the planning commission nominates the administrative officer. The select board appoints the administrative officer. So that person theoretically is always coming through the planning commission. You're the search committee, as it were, a little bit. So you nominate the administrative officer, the select board appoints the administrative officer. They're appointed for 3-year terms. They can only be removed. They can be removed if they're not doing the job, but they can be removed by a unanimous vote of the select board. But the idea is that they're going to make some decisions that people aren't going to like, because that's the job, and they can't just be removed willy-nilly. That's all over there in 4448. And then they're really where all permits start and finish. They're the funnel. And but anything that they do is appealable. Any act. Most people think it's the issuance of a permit or the denial of a permit that could be appealed. No, there's all sorts of, there could be you don't need a permit. If they do issue that in writing, the neighbor could be no, they're wrong, they need a permit. Or, oh, I don't think that's a fence. Or whatever. The Development Review Board, this is by law. We could do it a couple ways. I propose this way. What But the law, there will be a body that has to do two things. Sometimes, depending upon how we write the bylaw, but sometimes there will be a judgment call for site plan and conditional uses, especially for conditional uses. And the administrative officer is not really meant to do judgment calls. So you can have this body over you. That body also is going to hear appeals of the administrative officer. So in Vermont, we can do it a few different ways. The cleanest way is that body's called the development review. And they make those calls and they hear appeals. They may well be you. Just because there's a development review board does not mean you have to go find a bunch of good people. In Plymouth, for example, they're the same thing. In a couple of towns, they're the same thing. What was the town? Hershey. The only thing that's really important is that you guys formally change your hats when you're not being a planning commission and you're being a. On the other hand, you could be a board of adjustment. That is enabled under the law. They could do all of this stuff. We could call it the board of adjustment. Development review board is a better term, I think. But anywhere, the select board appoints them, and off they go to the races, and then they do these things. Now, if we decide, as we write the plan, that you're not going to use conditional use approval or whether we'll take that. But they do that and they handle all appeals. Pre-existing development. It's very important for people to understand because it's not obvious to the casual observer. Wait, you guys outlawed pizza parlors. I have a pizza parlor. I have to tear down my pizza parlor. No, don't have to tear it down. In fact, you can keep it going. In fact, you could probably expand a little bit, which we will deal with later, how you do expand it. But you don't need a permit. However, this part right here, like this is one of those parts where you're going to need to give me input. So these are the things that are kind of in play in the midst. They haven't been there forever. They're just nailing the boards together while we're doing the thing. Do they need a permit under the new bylaw or not? And so I have written some things here that to me make sense to say you don't need a permit under the bylaw. Because, and the term we would use in the field for this is do they vest? Do they have vested rights under pre-existing conditions? And so let me just run through these real quick. So one is they've got a state subdivision permit or have applied for the state subdivision permit. So they've gone out, they've dug a hole in the ground, they've got their septic test, they've got the permit, or they've dug a hole in the ground, they've got the engineer's design over it, and they've applied for it. Because then they're kind of thinking like, oh, I want my septic here, my house over there. They've made some decisions and spent some money. They haven't built the house yet. The other one is they've got a state building permit. The only way they're going to get a state building permit is they've got like architectural designs, full board. Or they've got a flood permit, which they already might have. Again, they're probably going to know what they're doing. They've done something. Or some physical construction has begun, and here I put in, this is not law, this is a judgment call. Like, what do you want? If we're about to finalize the bylaw, and Andre runs to Home Depot and buys a 2x4, and says, I started my house, I bought a 2x4, are you guys like, okay, he started the house? Or you're like, no, that doesn't, the 2x4 doesn't count. But if you poured a foundation, we're going to count something. Again, that's really in your editing role there. And This one is a local or state access permit and built the road, so, because it really doesn't cost you much to get an access permit from the town. I want a driveway here, great. But you want a driveway here and you built the road, you spend some money. Or development where materials sufficient to substantially complete the product of the order. I'm doing a modular home, I've ordered the modular home. Again, this is a place where somebody might go, well, who makes that call? Materials sufficient to, a 2x4 is clearly not. 1,000 2x4s, different story. This is where the AO makes the call, and the AO's decision is appealable to the DRB. And so, again, focus on that and go, and maybe there's other stuff out there. Most bylaws don't deal with this very well, and it always comes up. And so I've tried to write some provision. This part here is tries to be very tight. It is except for pre-existing or in-process development specified above in 1.8 or below in 1.1. You can't do it unless you have a permit. That means no building, no structure, no use, no land, no lighting, no signage. Nothing can be moved, placed upon the land, altered. You name it, out there. You can't disturb, clear, excavate, grade, blast, fill. You can't drill a well. You can't fill water. You can't cut vegetation. Because a lot of people out there, they're like, I don't need a permit to go clear my house line. Yeah, you do. Now, remember this part says, except under section 1.1, which we haven't written yet. And under 1.1, we might go, we don't care. Or we don't care as long as you're cutting outside the setback. Like we don't want you to cut to the property line. But if you're cutting up to 20 feet from the property line or whatever, we may decide we don't care. Usually where you guys don't have any big ponds in town, do you?
A big what?
Ponds.
That's a few. How big is big for a
10 acres.
10 acres?
Yeah.
Mm.
Small.
Swamps. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the water level.
Not that I can think of.
Okay, I don't think you do.
Certainly not 10 acres.
Yeah.
All right.
But because if you did have a pond of 10 acres or more, then it'd be good for the bylaw to deal with that, because then all that development always needs a state lakeshore permit.
Right.
And cutting a tree gets you a permit underneath that. And it's real important here for people to go, whoa, go over and see them, get your permit, come back to us. That's one of the few places there. So this says, don't do anything. So you, and then this next part here says, unless we say you can, you can't. And if you do something that you shouldn't do, it's subject to enforcement and fines. Just to cover enforcement and fines really quickly, you all won't enforce anything. Zoning administrator enforces, they issue a notice. They don't fine people. They don't take people to court. Only the select board does that. And the select board doesn't fine, only the court fines. So the way enforcement works is if Andre has done something Andre shouldn't.
Poor Andre.
Yes, like he is. You're the only one here, so I'm picking on you. You need to bring your a friend you don't like, and then they can. But if Andre, and how that actually functions out is a matter for the town to work on. But the zoning administrator doesn't have to check with anybody. They don't check with the select board they're basically, Andre did something they shouldn't do.
Let's make Andre the administrative officer.
Okay, let's make, let's make Stephen the bad person. So Stephen has gone out there and he's like, you know, you don't need a permit to clear your land, forgetting that part. So he's out there sawing and bulldozing and stuff. And Andre says, whoa, time out. And goes out to Stephen. How they actually do it is a lot like getting stopped by the police, getting a ticket. They might, or they may not give you a ticket right then. They may give you a warning. Because you might go out there and go, oh, well, these things may not get you into trouble, these trees. Don't cut anything more. Come in and get a permit. There are after-the-fact permits that are issued. They're like, you built a house. You need a permit. Let's review the rules. Your house needs to be 20 feet from all the lot lines. You need an acre. You're 20 feet from all the lot lines. You got an acre. You needed a septic permit before you could build the house. Oh, you got a septic permit, Stephen. Oh, everything's actually good except you don't have the permit. Apply for a permit now, and we will process it. He doesn't have to go directly to enforcement. What he could do is he could go, notice a violation, have a nice day. But how the town actually does that thing gets worked out by the town. But it's clear he does not have discretion. If you violate the bylaw, the zoning administrator has to correct it.
So that process that you just described
Yes.
is going to show up somewhere in here.
Yeah, usually down the end when we talk about enforcement and things. But how, it doesn't say exactly how it goes through. It says what the law calls for. The law says he has to give you a certified letter saying you have a notice of violation. You have 7 days to fix it. Which sometimes is like, you put the trailer in the wrong spot, move the trailer, whatever. You fix it, fine. If you don't fix it, then you got a violation. You could appeal, that'll be in the end. You can be like, Andre just doesn't like me since high school. And so I'm appealing Andre's decision, and now we're over here. Or whatever. But most of the time, our advice to towns is call them up. Because when Andre sends you that notice of violation, they potentially cloud your title. And for people who are being sticks in the mud, where they are not paying attention to those things, we say, oh, and by the way, Andre, send a courteous copy to his mortgage holder, who will really not like clouding his title. You don't have to, the law doesn't say anything about that. But a courteous copy to the mortgage holder, because then the bank might go, you just clouded your title.
Yeah.
We don't like this. We also sometimes, depending upon the situation for driveways and stuff, say, oh, and by the way, send a courteous copy to his insurance agent. Because part of the thing is he didn't build a driveway right. The fire trucks can't get there. The insurance company's not going to like it. There's nothing in zoning around it, but there are tricks of the trade. But this just says subject to enforcement fines, just to let people know it's not just unicorns and fairy dust eventually. The next part will be, 1-1 will be, and this doesn't apply to you. This doesn't apply to you. And there's going to be like 20 things there. And that's really going to be, to me, a very good part for you guys to do value decisions and go, do we care about that? And one of the things that we're going to write in there, that we're going to see, is what we call the de minimis clause. And it says, and anything else that's a de minimis violation. And people go, well, what's that? And it's going to be Andre deciding it's de minimis. Because, yeah, the bylaw didn't say bird baths are allowed or not allowed, or tree forts, or the fake little oil derricks that are 3 feet high, or whatever, all the things that kind of you don't talk about. But Andre's going to make that decision and do it. De minimis, de minimis, de minimis. we are gonna talk about a whole bunch of things that are common. Storage trailers, construction trailers, small fences, realtor signs. There's a whole pile of things where we go, don't care, don't care, don't care. Typically, but that's really gonna be your call, because I might say, I don't care about that, but you guys are gonna be like, yeah, we care about that one. We don't care about that. Fences. Do you care about a fence? Like let's just play that one out right now. If your neighbor builds a fence on the property line, a split rail fence between your property and their property, do you care? This is a value decision. You care?
No.
Anybody care? Okay. If they build a 20-foot high fence of telephone poles, do you care?
I might care.
Okay, good, because I've had kind of both happen. Those are what's known as spike fences.
Yeah.
And so typically we're going to end up somewhere around 4 or 5, 6 feet. At some point, you're going to be like, that's a permit. Some dinky thing, not a permit. And so that'll be really your call. And I'll give you like this is commonly what's used. And then you're going to be like, up, down. And so really, next time we're going to see that. This is like 20 things. It's really a menu of like, don't care, don't care, don't care. And that's really going to be important because as we go forward and people are like, oh, I need a permit to, paint my door or change the doorknob or whatever, you're going to be like, one more. We already talked about that. It's right here. Big giant list of things that we don't care about.
Hey, everybody, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
First of all, thanks a lot, Kevin. I've got to go real soon. I had one quick question though for you. Whoever ends up being the development review board, are they subject to the open meeting laws when they deliberate and rule?
Not in terms of deliberating. No, their deliberations are not executive session. They're a different thing. They're deliberations. They're a quasi-judicial body. The best way to think about them is like the jury.
But warnings and stuff, they have to, if they're going to meet, they have to post a warning?
They can all be like, we're all going to meet at George's house tomorrow, 10 o'clock. They have to tell each other.
Yeah. Okay. I was just trying to just separate whether they would be, whether it would be a more relaxed function. All right, everybody. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I do have to go though. So.
Thanks for being there.
And we'll talk, assuming this thing all plays out.
All right. Hopefully I'll set aside more time in the next meeting. So.
No,
thanks, Dan. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Steve.
So just to think about that a little bit, we'll train you on that, or whoever ends up doing that. But deliberative bodies are allowed not to deliberate in public. They just go in private. It's not executive session. It's a different part of the law. It's not public. They go off and they do it. They come back. Whatever they decide is a written decision. That becomes public. Our advice to towns is always deliberate in private.
What'd you say last word?
Our advice to towns is always deliberate in private.
In private?
Yeah, so if somebody comes and you're all like, oh yeah, easy, smeezy. My advice is you always go, Stephen, you need to leave the room while we talk about this thing. Because when it gets hairy, and people go, why are you guys going in there private? You go, because we always go in private. And they will know, because and then everybody goes, yeah, they always go on. And so just as a matter of course, administratively, that's not something you write in the bylaw, it's not something you have to do, it's just a procedure you decide.
It's a practice that you accept.
Okay, good.
This has been helpful to me.
Excellent.
And I am going to try to stay to that 8 o'clock.
Yep.
The take home from this is that we all have a chance now that we've heard the explanation, have a chance to go back, look through this again, do editorial comments or factual changes or suggested changes, whatever. And if you can get all that to me a week prior to our next meeting, then I will get it to Kevin so that he can have it in a form that we can look at and then openly discuss, accept, reject, what have you. And then there'll be one funnel to you.
Yep.
You will also bring something else to us next meeting, which will be the next stage,
Which will be exempted, the exemption provision.
okay?
It'll just be one provision next time.
That was it.
1.11.
Where is it? 182.
So we have 1.10, that's the document. You will then be sending us, prior to the next meeting, the document that's 1.11 and whatever those exemptions might be.
Yeah, because that's a big kind of, I mean, it's just one provision, but it's kind of a big thing.
Yep.
And so when will the next meeting be?
The first Wednesday in March,
March 4th.
if that is the date, that's the date.
And that's what I have you on.
I have you March 4th, that's what I have.
Excellent.
Day after
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yes. Okay, good. Great, that'll be a good, so, and so just so you're all clear, yeah, we don't, like, the stuff that we kind of went over tonight in terms of like how we're actually gonna do it, we don't write that in a contract because every town's different. And so this will be great, so you'll be.
Let's give this a try,
Yeah,
see how
Yeah.
it works. If we need to modify it, then we do.
Yeah.
If it seems to move us forward, then let's do it that way.
and again, next time we'll walk through the comments, get rid of them, decide on them one way or the other, do whatever, and then we'll walk through why 1.1 looks the way it does, and then you'll go home and think about 1.1. And again, that's really gonna take a bunch of things off the plate. So I think it's very important for the general public to know that early on in the process, that we don't care.
Yeah, I think this is a very helpful process to my mind.
Well, this is all new to you guys.
I appreciate that. One thing that I would, just popped into my mind as you were winding up, it would kind of help to have a few examples that you have from your experience as to how this process played out. Sometimes positively, but occasionally, and you know which ones are dynamite and which ones aren't. But that's the way that I learn is to have an example.
Yeah, you mean the process example or the end product example?
No, the process. Well, what we're doing is we're working in a process to have the end product.
Yeah.
And I would help that once in a while, if you know of something, to say, for example, that business about having the deliberative process always be behind closed doors.
Yes.
And to get that on the books before you have something that you have to go behind the doors with. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
But I also heard you say that, well, the experience of towns or bodies, but towns. So anyway, I'll just throw that in. That would help. I think I would be helped because I could see that fit into places where, a lot of us have been in this room a lot. And those are the things that we bring into our subconsciousness and our consciousness.
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing, and I've worked with you guys before, so I'm, kind of cognizant of how you work. On the plan, this is slightly different because it's a different critter out there. But really, the biggest thing, especially if I have new staff, and especially if we're dealing with a town that we haven't dealt with in a while, is going to be the pace and the attention. Because there are towns where we bring stuff and you all just sit there and go, And so I merrily just keep writing. And then, October comes around, we go to a hearing, And you all put me up on stage, and every time they say, why did you do this? And I say, I didn't do this, the planning commission did. And you all point back at me and like, no, you made us do it, Kevin. And then I'm like,
I have no desire to put you out to pasture or anything like that.
so,
I appreciate that you are going to give us a target that will make it much easier for us to have input on.
yeah, and don't, I mean, by now I can see when I'm gonna be a target at the end, so I head that off pretty well. The other danger, which you aren't doing, which is good, is we're still in the first paragraph. Like, we've spent the entire hour and a half wordsmithing 2 sentences. And I've had staff walk out of those first meetings and their eyes are just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we're never gonna
Never get there.
and so we're not there either.
You're asking us to take ownership for what comes out.
And as a process thing, basically once we clear 110, we're not going away. And then once we clear 111, we're not going away. Now that doesn't mean we can't, but it means that we kind of make decisions and then we move on. Otherwise, we'll be in a whirlpool, killer hydraulic. Excellent, thank you. We're at 8:03.
Okay.
Lovely. And you all have this document as a Word document?
Yeah. Thanks.
And then you can decide, again, this process as we go along, you might decide as we kind of firm up pieces, do you want to make that put that as a public draft on the town website and so as it gets built, it's just visible or not, you can decide how.
I think the more publicness,
That's certainly,
better.
that's a conversation that we should have.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether people actually will access that.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I learned that by reading a lot of your book, so to speak.
It's a huge thing.
But by being here and if you put something out there public, maybe more people like me will come around. Instead of just complain at the end, we'll complain during,
Yeah,
Right.
good.
or speak out during.
Yeah.
But it's also for those people who might not access Zoom or be able to attend, at least you can point them towards something that they can look at.
Exactly. This has been extremely informative, so I appreciate it, all of you.
Well, thank you for coming.
I'm sure I'm not gonna agree with a lot of things, but I do, times are changing.
Yeah.
It's, we can't make time stand still, so there has to be some restrictions, I guess, if you want to put it
You
that
probably
way.
lived in Heartland for quite a while.
Since '87, but I grew up in Newport, Central Vermont, so I grew up over there, so. And, if you stay at the same place, you get stale. And then
Did you
things
say
get
Newport?
overgrown, you get stale, and then things get overgrown, kind of like a field that doesn't get mowed.
You said Newport, Vermont?
Yeah.
Newport Center, right?
Yeah,
Got some family up there.
yeah.
Fortons.
Yep, actually, some from up in Holland area.
Ashley Cross. Forton.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Newport Center. I worked in the Kingdom for 7 years. That's where I started, which is where all planners should start, because that takes the rough edge out.
All right, well, do you want to close it? You want me to close
Yeah,
it?
we say Newport Center, which is.
Let me,
All right, so
Yeah.
we've talked about the bylaws.
Yeah.
Any other new or old business?
no, we got the date for the next
The
meeting.
next meeting is scheduled for March 4th. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Signify by getting up and leaving.
Sounds like a plan.
So when are you leaving on your,
Tomorrow morning,
tomorrow morning?
Have a
That's
great
right,
trip.
you always cut it
Wow.
close.
3:25 bus.
You're
How
gonna
do you get
post
to where
some
you're
things
going?
on Facebook, I hope.
I will post it. You can read the whole thing again if you want, but yeah.
Okay.
okay.
My mom